Good evening and welcome to The Square. Tonight is the 19th edition of Burning Issues. This is a conversation that we have every last Wednesday of the month, just the resident panelists, no guests per se. And we talk about issues you, the viewers, have put forward to us for discussion on our social media platforms, by emails, by SMS. Basically, it's an engagement between our viewers and the resident panelists on the show. So the hot topics that we are going to discuss tonight are those that you put forward to us. And chief amongst them, we're going to focus on Miss Rwanda 2021, which was just recently concluded. We're also going to talk about sexual violence and harassment in light of what's been happening on our social media feeds in Rwanda. We're also going to look at the upcoming Kwibuka 27th, which is the upcoming commemoration of the 27th year since the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis. We're entering the commemoration period next month, so this is something that we will just touch on, although of course during the month of April we have dedicated shows to this particular topic. My name's Dan PC, host of The Square. As always, I'm really happy to be joined by The Square resident panelists, especially on Burning Issues edition, because that's just where, you know, we talk a bit more freely and I can allow Charles and Berna to go more head to head without some of our guests. And I'd like to thank and welcome you, Berna, once again on the show. It's been a while. You've been really busy traversing the country. Great to have you on The Square.
Thank you so much.
You look lovely in your blue Uzi Collections dress.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Charles, looking dashing in pink. Great to have you as always on the show.
Same here, Dana. How are you?
Good. We've been holding the fort without Berna for the last 2 weeks. So.
Yes, she was out there looking for the next Miss Rwanda.
So I don't know if we have midweek highlights that are not part of the topics we're going to discuss tonight, or should we just delve into the topics that our viewers selected for us?
Then I have one particular thing that is burning me.
On burning issues?
Yes, it's actually bothering me, and it's around the way we program our public works. So you're driving away from office or to home or to the club or wherever you're going.
To the club during this time, COVID times?
To the club where you
play tennis. Oh, right.
Yeah, to your sports club.
Of course, that's what you meant.
Yeah, and it's rush hour. And they're painting roads during rush hour. What is the city of Kigali or whoever is in charge of this doing during the weekend or in the night or off-peak hours? And to make matters worse, there are human shields that are supposed to stop you from stepping on the newly painted yellow or black or red lines, whatever color they are these days. And I think there's a bit of a mismatch in the way we are doing. I understand there's a race to Chogam, but for crying out loud, let them do the work at 9 p.m. or on Sunday or on Saturday for that matter. So I think this
is this something you witnessed recently?
2 days ago, actually almost throughout the whole of this week. It's been a bit of a problem. Yeah.
It's interesting. Brenna, any midweek highlights other than the topics we're going to discuss tonight, especially in lieu of the fact that you've been not on the square, busy with interesting things the last 2 weeks?
There's an image that has stayed in my mind from up country, and this is an image of I saw a woman on a bicycle with a baby and a basket, and she was riding on.
That sounds really, it inspires me actually.
Yeah. Imagine this, you have a baby, you're carrying a baby, you have a basket on your bicycle, and you're riding.
But that's actually common up country, for women up country.
Yes.
Urbanized to urbanized.
No, the thing is, imagine that woman, her life. Yeah? Because she's carrying the baby to wherever she's going, because she doesn't have anybody to take care of the baby. That woman is probably the sole breadwinner in that house, you know. So,
interesting.
Some sort, yeah.
But you were inspired,
yes,
I'm sure,
of
by
course.
that image. So we're going to just kick off into the topic. It's a bunch of topics. I hope we can fit into the minutes that we're always allocated each show, just, you know, under an hour, slightly under an hour. So the first that I would like to discuss, that, you know, viewers have put forward to us, to touch on, is the Miss Rwanda 2021. that was concluded on March 20th, which was, if I'm not mistaken, last week. So Miss Rwanda 2021 is a very dynamic, creative lady called Grace Ingabire, who's 25 years old. And of course, this was some of the key things about the event that were a bit different. It was virtual. Based on, the COVID-19 pandemic, and also just on social commentary, the caliber apparently of the contestants was slightly different to what has been the norm over the years. So generally my question to you and also to our viewers, feel free to weigh in using #TheSquareRW on our Twitter feed, is what stood out for you the most? What is something that stood out for you? What is something you'd like to, share about your comments on the entire organizations and the current Miss Rwanda? And I don't know if we should start with you, Charles, or Berna. Maybe Berna, since you since we've missed you. So yeah, I'd like to kick off with you, Berna.
I actually would have loved Charlie to go first because I didn't watch it. So I have no idea. And like I've said before, I have very strong views, against Miss Rwanda. And
why?
This is because I feel we have to make a decision, as a country, as a nation, what kind of country or nation we want to build for a woman or a young girl. Yeah. Now, if you look at the origins of beauty contests or beauty pageants, one, it is foreign. Two, I just can't imagine that in the 21st century, we can still parade women and say, this one has very nice legs, she's very tall, she looks good. I don't get it. As far as I'm concerned, I will never understand that. But that's just me. Now, you may say there are opportunities around these, events. You have the fashion industry.
There's an entire value chain around
yes,
the events industry.
That's fine. So why can't we then organize a beauty pageant for men? Why can't we have men do the walks, and we also admire and say, oh, that one has good legs? Or why can't we also ask them questions and interrogate them and say, oh, that one, is good. There, we think we've gotten beauty and brains. I don't get it. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we have to decide. Yeah, if we're empowering the young girl, if we are going to change our history, there are things that have no place in the modern Rwanda, in my view.
In your view?
Because we move forward and then we walk backwards, in my view. Because if we're saying we don't want people to be identified by, how they look, then why do we have a contest that looks at how, where we can decide and say this one looks this way, or why?
I think...
and why don't we have a male contest?
Mr.
Yes.
Rwanda. First of all, I'd like to say there are a couple of things. Your views are just, they're quite loaded, but very valid views nonetheless. I'd like to just point out a couple of things. First of all, we have contests to do with the human form. You have Mr. Universe, you have Mrs. Universe, and these are weightlifting, bodylifting champions. And they literally, in fact, for them, they don't even ask questions. It is literally on the way you look, based on your muscles. For all intents and purposes, you probably don't have anything between your ears, but they're contests where humans, by nature, by tradition, will judge each other, make an event around it based on the human form, whether it's male or female. So in that sense, if people decide let's have something to showcase the beauty and the eloquence and the confidence of women, and also in that stead, reward them in terms of giving them opportunity, exposure, and engaging them in community-based activities, what's wrong with that? Just because they're not as many male equivalents, there are still hundreds of
that puts young men
at the same...
Yes, at the same level.
There's an issue.
They don't have the same scrutiny.
Yeah.
Because think about it. a week, not even a week, after, you know, the crown, you know, somebody had been crowned. This is, you should have seen social media. Oh, the attire she was wearing, or she exposed this, and then, you know, then there are comments around, oh, it wasn't, you know, and I just wonder, why can't we do better? Anyway, that's just me. I'm quite conservative, so
Charles,
things are just...
interesting. I'd like to hear from you. I don't know if
No,
you
of
agree
course,
with
I
Berna,
would-
disagree with Berna.
Of course.
I would never agree with Bana on this one, and we almost all come to the edge of fighting on this matter. I think, first of all, she has a very heavily loaded, premeditated bias on Miss Rwanda. First of all, it's a beauty pageant. Men are not supposed to be beautiful.
Who says?
Yes.
Charles,
Who says?
I don't think you're helping the situation right now. I don't think you're helping the conversation with your comments.
That is number one. Number two is I have not come across any one Miss Rwanda who is not intelligent. So to your point, Dan, about beauty and brains and rewarding them and recognizing them and then using them to the best of promoting female emancipation and what have you, amongst other things. I mean, on this particular show, we've hosted previous Miss Rwandas. I have had the opportunity of interacting with previous pageants in different fora, and I'm extremely thrilled. And I ask myself, the same applies to Bana or you, Diana. If you had never gotten the opportunities that you have gotten in your careers, how else would your intellect have been manifested for you to share with the world? And that probably is the opportunity that Miss Rwanda offers the ladies with those brains. So that's the third point that I have to raise. The other one is, of course, we have to respect the likes of Bana and their opinions.
The likes of...
Yeah. Because otherwise, how else would you not bet the next pageant? So, and I think, again, I for one, I did not watch this year round for the simple reason that I thought it lacked the flair and the glamour that a live event would otherwise have offered. COVID is what it is. It's no one's fault, but kudos to the organizers that they still managed to pull it off and ensure that the tradition does not fade away. When it comes to men and parading men, there are lots of fashion shows. Actually, at one point, I think I did read somewhere in social media that there was a bit of a concern that the men were getting a little bit more of attention and opportunities in the fashion
and remuneration.
world. Yes.
Male models compared to the female counterparts.
Yes, in the fashion world compared to the women. So I pledge to buy for Bana a VIP ticket at the next male fashion show, and she will sit right in the front of the catwalk. I want her to see men catwalking. I think she misses looking at men's legs as they walk past her. But I think that point is quite misguided, Diana. Yes.
Can I respond briefly?
Please. You have to, actually.
I think we need to take a deeper look than that, yeah? And this is because there's a history in terms of representation of women. And representation of women historically, up to today, affects how women live up to today. You know, you can be a man and nobody will bother whether you have a clean shirt or how you look, yeah? What we are trying to change, what we are trying to change today is that people should stop focusing on how women look, you know, and women shouldn't have to work extra hard to prove to anybody that they are brilliant, that they can do certain things, you know. So if you organize a pageant and you're, you know, asking questions, and at the end of the day, there's a judgment, and they say, oh, this one is the fairest, and she's brilliant. What are you saying? Like the other women are not supposed to be? So that is my problem. So I feel that if we are really going to change how society views women, then first of all, we have to challenge the historical representations of women, including beauty pageants. If you include men And they are also subjected to the same, you know, this tall, I don't know what you're wearing, we ask them questions, and maybe society will get to understand that you can also have maybe stupid men. Or you can have men.
And they actually exist.
Yes, they do exist,
yes,
but we don't expose them like we expose these women, you know. And also, for me, what is even more touching is that most of the time these are very young, vulnerable girls, yeah? And this is what happens after. After the pageant, they're exposed, and then you have, I wouldn't want to call it professional media, but you have tabloid journalism around these young women. Or she's moving out with so-and-so, or she's divorced, or she's, and, you know.
The effect on
yes, and these young girls don't know how to cope with these things. You know, so I feel that, of course, we've made progress because the Miss Rwanda of this year wasn't the same like it was a couple of years ago. But I think that the creative people need to think about how to repackage, you know, because what I am seeing right now is that there's a lot of value for the business people, you know, who are, you know, the brands that are supporting it, or whoever is around these girls, you know. And I'm not sure the girls really get the value, you know. So we need to be very honest. The girls are still getting a raw deal. That's for a fact.
So
if you're MTN, if you're getting Becca, you're getting value. But these young girls, as far as I'm concerned,
you know
are
what,
still getting
you know, I follow this Miss Rwanda a bit closely, I think, compared to the rest, primarily because you know, of COVID, you don't have to attend the event. You can watch it on different platforms online. And there were also lots of engagements with the girls, with the contestants before they came online. And this was engagement in terms of, you know, sharing inspirational talks from these brands themselves. So it's not just endorsing and looking for sponsorship. They would actually come and talk to these girls, whether it was MTN, whether it was Becca, you know, talk to them about, you know, the world out there, because most of them are in university. This is how we can, this is what the world out there in the corporate, you know, field looks like. So I feel there was better engagement between brands and the contestants this year. I feel there were better conversations. I feel like there's better preparation. In general, I really feel like we're being too hard on the organizers, because they really pull their socks in trying to put together a more, what's the word? Brenna, let me finish. I can see you nodding the head. But a bit more preparatory and comprehensive package for these contestants before putting them under scrutiny and endorsing them to these brands. So I think there's also better engagement between the brands and then Miss Rwanda. In terms of what you're saying, Brenna, I think it's valid. I look forward to a Mr. Rwanda. I don't see why not. It also deals with the different levels of patriarchal scrutiny in terms of representation of women that you've been talking about since time immemorial. At the same time, I still think there's no reason to denigrate and, you know, cut at the knees the organization of Miss Rwanda and the benefits it has for these girls.
I think it can get better. Let me very briefly,
maybe,
this is my last comment.
But you see, that's what I like. You're kind of changing. It can get
yes,
better. But
it can get better.
You're not saying it's a complete waste of time.
I mean, it's not my job to come here and say, you know, what
to improve.
Yes,
and
no.
Yes.
I feel these girls can get a better deal. First of all, we know.
From a remuneration perspective? Or?
Not even just that. I mean, look at the mentorship. Huh? If you're saying you're exposing these young girls, you know, to CEOs, and the interaction is 1 week, do you really think that will change the mindset? What I would expect is to say minimum 6 months mentorship. Okay, so these girls are going to interact with the CEO of Becca for 6 months. Let's see how that goes. But you don't tell me 2 or 3 visits will change this life. No. They will change the life for Becca, which is getting the publicity. Yeah? So, you know, we can get better with these things.
I agree. I can agree on the better mentorship and engagement with the contestants.
I think also there's a challenge around, with no offense meant, sometimes our historical upbringing, that we do not appreciate that somebody can go through the channels of being a Miss Universe, and that's a career. The channels of being through Miss Venezuela, and that's a career in itself, as a model or as a former, you know,
Miss World
or whatever. And I remember several years ago, there was a lady who qualified for the Olympics to swim for Rwanda. And there were sections of the media that were saying, no, 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 no. This girl is parading herself to the world in a swimsuit. So I remember at that time I was serving on the executive of the Rwanda National Olympic Committee, and in this particular meeting I asked, can we pick and choose the battles that we want to fight? Do we want Olympic models or we want to observe how people dress? Because we have an option to concentrate all our time and efforts in attending a Gusaba and pray to God that Gusabas will qualify to bring us international fame, or
invest in this Olympic,
invest in sports.
This athlete.
Yes, so in the same breath, Bana, if we want our intelligent young girls to be role models to their peers and why not national, regional, international acclaim, we have to be ready to pay the price. This Miss Rwanda who won Grace Ingabire.
Yes.
I was about to forget. I just wanted to be so sure because I voted for her. She ate a lot of my airtime. Yeah,
you did vote?
Yes, I did vote for her several times. Her family are my people.
Did you vote because of the family, or you voted because you thought
A bit of both. So, very intelligent person up there. I mean, she, and this is one of the things that we need to consider about people who think out of the box and people who have a career outside of the norm. She went to school to study dancing. Now she's an
instructor.
Yes, she's an instructor. She's Miss Rwanda. Is that your stereotype, journalistic media guru with dreadlocks who doesn't believe in Miss Rwanda? No, we just need to accept that things work in different ways, and the times in which we are dictating that there are different avenues of forming most likely lucrative careers.
Charles, I think you're missing the point.
Yeah, but I would like us to move to the next point.
Yes,
can we wrap this up, please?
Very final, because I think Charles has missed the point. The point is, these girls deserve better. Whatever you can do to better whatever you're doing, I'm okay with you.
So whose job is that? Is it the organizers to require better from the sponsors?
Of course, because the organizers sign these partnerships, you know. Yeah, so get them a better deal, that's number one. Number two, put the men there. I want to see the men. I want to be able to say this one has good legs.
Absolutely.
And this one is tall enough. I want to see that. And then we can talk about empowerment.
Thank you.
Can
Moving
I
on.
just make one
Charles.
final request through you, Diana.
Charles.
May you please queue up a session for the country manager of Nation Media Group to talk to the girls.
Okay.
Yes.
And that, just for our viewers, the country manager, country director of Nation Media Group in Rwanda is none other than Bernadette Namata. So, Bernard, it would be great for you to talk to Miss Rwanda 2022. I would love to see that, according to Charles. I hope that's your last point, Charles.
Yes.
Rana, can I move on? Okay, so the next topic that we'd like to discuss is sexual harassment and sexual violence. So I think in Rwanda, what's been happening, and of course inspired by the Me Too movement, is many sexual violence and sexual harassment victims going or resorting to online platforms to call out their abusers. And this, you know, I think this is a trend that's been happening at least since the Me Too movement, and in Rwanda, especially on our social media platforms, I think in the last 3 years, starting in 2018 to date. And recently this also emerged last week on Rwandan's social media channel. So, of course, what we see online is a fraction of really the actual picture of sexual harassment, especially against women and also, of course, children, countrywide. This is just a fraction of what's really happening. What we're seeing online is a fraction of what's really happening. But the question tonight is quite broad-based, and it's broad-based because I'd like to hear from our viewers, different angles from this question, and also from our resident panelists, Charles and Berna. It's what ideas do you have? And I know this is a recurring topic on the square for the last 3 years since we kicked off this this platform. What are your ideas on how victims can be encouraged to speak out more in terms of reporting abuse, especially when it comes to even the people closest around them? You know, family members, teachers, doctors, employers, that sort of thing. What do you think we can do better? Because, Charles, you mentioned this, I think, in the show 2 shows ago, that silence is violence. You know, we have a culture of silence in Rwanda, so our culture doesn't help also the situation in terms of speaking out. So what are some of your ideas on what we can do better to encourage people to speak out against the abusers and also to hold abusers accountable? And this was put forward by us to one of our viewers. Thank you very much. And Charles, I'll kick off that question with you.
I think, by and large, and this is a very, very general comment, that there is a likelihood, and there is actually probably a very high possibility, there are some of us men who do not understand either that what we are doing is wrong, or that the repercussions of what we do would destroy somebody's lifetime in eternity. And where I'm going with this is sometimes we may think that the utterances we make are purely flirtatious, or it is in my right to touch a lady's part of the body as she's passing by, and I think I'm actually complimenting her for being very well shaped, and so on and so forth. So I think it's extremely important that a very, very deliberate campaign is targeted towards the boys and the men. I see a lot that has been done to the girls to educate them about their rights and reporting. And therefore, that comes off as being post-mortem in nature. It also
not
comes
preventative,
yeah,
not dealing with it.
Yes, because if we go to the root cause of this, who is entering the ladies' space? It is us men. Who is depriving them of their confidence and keeping them silent? It is us men. So I think there needs to be a very, very deliberate campaign from the schools, at the school level, secondary schools especially, such that by the time boys are growing up to become men, they know it is extremely wrong to do certain things. But even after men have grown and gotten money as well, and or even very, very simple guys who do the simple jobs, because some of these things that you read are from guys who ride bicycles, taxi velo or motors, you know. And these guys are organized through all sorts of groupings. The Aseta Morwa with the motorbike guys, cab drivers, and so on and so forth. To continue the same way we will talk about non-communicable diseases, HIV/AIDS, COVID campaigns, and all these campaigns that we want to put across. If we want to totally uproot this social evil, let's go to the men.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And coming from
Boys
someone
and
like
men,
you,
yes.
yeah, it always irks me before I get to Brenna, why, you know, from the age of 0 to, 15 or whatever, we're teaching our girls, don't wear this, don't go to this place after dark, we're always teaching girls how to protect themselves from abuse, from potential abuse, from potential, even death. Based on these advances from men. But rarely do you see deliberate, mainstreamed information on how to teach boys from a young age on how not to be abusers, on the concept of consent, on the concept of, so many things. And I just really appreciate your point, Charles, on trying to look at it from that angle. Brenna, over to you.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because, first of all, when you look at anything to do with sex, it's a taboo. Yeah, so that's why even talking about it is extremely difficult. Now, until you dismantle that, it is still a problem. You have issues around reporting. Now, the second issue is we have to change as a society, again, how we view women. We are raised to, one, respect men, this is how we are nurtured, you know, in most homes.
Which is no problem if it was, you know,
if it was told even to them,
to the,
you know,
yes, to boys, yes,
you know,
yes.
So, you know, you have to respect, you have to be submissive, and all these things, in the end, really make it difficult when faced with harassment. One, fighting back or confronting your abuser, it's difficult. Most women will tell you when they face, they will just walk away. They won't even talk about it, you know. If she bothers to talk about it, everybody will be questioning. What were you wearing? Why were you there?
What did you do?
What did you say?
You do? What did
yes,
you say? Yeah.
you know, that is always the response, the standard response. And the other one will be like, oh, she has a record, you know. So,
she or he has a record?
yes,
She, the victim,
yes,
has a record of,
yes.
She
So
deserves whatever happened then.
the burden is always on the victim. So until we realize that we have to begin by addressing the burden on the victim, we won't do much. And some things are as basic as nurturing, even getting people to understand consent for anything. Even if it's my cup, ask me if I really want you to use my cup. It's the basic things, you know. So if someone is brought up in a home where they never, you know, that kind of courteousness is not there, you can imagine as grown-ups, the sense of entitlement, they can say whatever they want, they can get away with whatever they want, and it's a problem. So I feel that there are no easy answers. Of course, the politicians will say we have a policy, we have a law against, but we know that even the few cases that are brought forward, it is difficult. You know, the whole process of investigation, the trial, it is extremely difficult. So what you want to do is spend a lot of time making sure these things are not happening, you know. Hopefully, we'll get to a point, first of all, where we see more litigation around these cases. And I feel that there's a department that has RIB that has to be given more resources, at least to help have successful litigations around these issues. Until people begin losing their careers, until people really, you know, are affected because of probably saying the wrong thing, people will not take it serious, you know. So, like I've said before, sometimes I think we need to stop talking about this, you know, because almost 3 in 5 women will tell you they face these things at work, wherever they are, you know. So how do we ensure that someone will think twice before they actually say anything? You know, before you tell me that I look smart, or, you know, you think I do good, you'll think twice about it, you know. So we have to change culture, but it's not easy, you know. We have to go back and start with the basics as consent. Ask me if I want, you know, even my friend, you know.
Yeah. I just want to touch on, before we move to, you know, the third topic for tonight, on the issue of, you know, I feel like which is fantastic, which is great, just hearing from both of your comments, both on, you know, the before, like Charles talked about it, I don't know what word you used, but this is, you know, how to prevent the abuse, how to prevent this incident, how to prevent the normalization of what we're seeing in the world today. Rwanda, of course, is no exception. But I want to talk about how, you know, the platforms that we're using on social media, when victims call out their abusers, what we've been seeing in Rwanda over the last 3 years. Do you think, number one, it is worth it? Does it work? Because this is a court of public opinion. We have to understand that, you know, before anyone is proven innocent or guilty, there's basically you know, the rule of the law. Investigations will be conducted by RIB, prosecutions will be done by the Office of the Prosecutor General. So my question to you is, this court of public opinion and going to social media, for many people, especially like the victims, I know it's cathartic. I know it also sometimes also hastens the process of, you know, Brenna, like you're saying, prosecution or litigation. But what are your opinions in this court of public opinion, so to speak? Brenna, I'll kick off with you.
Well, I struggle with social media, you know, because any topic on social media, give it 24 hours. Rarely will it go beyond 24 hours. And I think for a topic to go beyond 24 hours, it would have to be regional or global. You know, you have several actors waking up at different time zones, you know, like we saw recently the Nigerian protests around
Police brutality.
yes, SARS,
Yes,
you know,
SARS.
even the Me Too movement, you know, it is a global movement. But locally, on average, it is 24 hours, and then we're you know, off to the next topic. So I wouldn't think that we should be looking at social media as a place to resolve these issues, because very many women and girls are offline to begin with. Yeah, so there are a few people online. What you want to do is, how do you ensure that people do not seek the court of public opinion as legal? You know, they do not see it as a legal mechanism. Yeah, but the reason we are seeing that social media, you know, the court of public opinion is seen as a way of seeking redress is because there are issues within, you know, the judicial system. People are not getting justice. And we've also seen this historically, that mob justice will come when people feel that there's nobody that is going to help them. You know, if they feel that maybe if we call the police will do nothing, then eventually you'll see cases of mob justice. Now, this is what we're seeing with these cases on social media. If, and again, I'll throw it out there to the people who are in charge of these things. There are big budgets, by the way, around gender mainstreaming and all these issues. For some reason, I don't know why we don't get to really see action, but there are big budgets. It's high time that we really tried to send a message, a strong message, that this is not tolerated. And beyond just going on social media and just saying sorry. Because, I mean, you tell me sorry, then what? I'm living with, you know, there's that. And also we know that most of the cases that happen, and again, it's on social media, people say we've been raising this, and there's no logical conclusion to some of these issues. You know, how about if there are issues that are raised out of public interest, a thorough investigation is done, and someone is cleared or is guilty, you know, so that you don't just tarnish somebody's name, or you don't just protect someone, you know. Yeah. So why can't we have, you know, public interest litigation around sexual harassment?
Agreed.
You know, bring it to a concrete, because, I mean, there are some people perhaps who feel they're innocent. Again, because they feel they're being victimized or there are reasons. It is the public prosecutor's job, in my view, to say, okay, while maybe 80% of people on social media think this person is guilty, they are not guilty.
Health?
Yeah, I want to talk about two things. One, what that banner raises around courteousness, you know, and this is one of the things that seriously lack in the Rwandan society, you know. Sometimes we tend to be too carried away by our urban environment that we forget that Nikosha is actually a very ordinary way of calling somebody, or the exception of the rule is actually opening the door of a car for a woman, and you know, certain things that we take for granted. We if you ask any of your male friends and relatives, Diana, how many of them would first ask a lady, do you mind if I took your number, as compared to those who just throw their 07 and then put the phone in top in front of the lady, you know. And we can give quite a number of examples and go on and on and on. So I for once, I think the first time on the show, I'm agreeing with Bana that we have a long way to go in terms of training even ourselves around courteousness. And that's where it really begins. Because women and ladies need to be made comfortable, and it is, again, as I started by saying, it is our responsibility, and let's be trained to be courteous about some of these things. The second point I wanted to raise is really around, for lack of a better word, we are villagers, you know, and almost all of us. You know, you'll go to Gisenyi, and especially maybe a best example to give you this long weekend. From that first point of Tam Tam, after the bridge, all the way up to the last point there where the dam is, you will see ladies who are hardly dressed, but it's okay, right? In that part of the town, there is nothing wrong with that. It's life as usual. Well, you can argue it's by the beach, it's Gisenyi, the weather is good, and so on and so forth. But it's also because that very small segment of people have learned to live with seeing people who express themselves, ladies who express themselves freely with the way they dress. Get those same ladies and those same guys and bring them to Kigali. They'll just take a picture and post it for the court of social media to make their opinion. So this definitely not going to be addressed overnight, but some of these things can be addressed with a very, very long-term agenda of a campaign of telling people, you know, it is my right. You know, do not judge me because of the way I have decided to dress. It is my right to express myself the way I want to express myself. Yes.
Moving on to the last topic of tonight, like I said to our viewers, we'll also touch on the upcoming commemoration, 27th memorial of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. But of course, every April we dedicate, you know, at least 2 weeks of the shows to deliberate and dedicated conversations on the topic. But just to, you know, sort of kickstart the conversation, I thought it fitting to also discuss it tonight based on some of the viewers' comments. You know, in 1 week, literally next week, Wednesday, a week from today, we'll be discussing, of course, with invited guests, the 27th memorial of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. As we approach this memorial, you know, in your closing, as we close the show, I would like to know your remarks, your thoughts over the years. Are there messages that we need to reiterate? What are your thoughts on the upcoming Kwibuka? And also any thoughts on how youth can get more involved, as they've been doing. Actually, I think last year we had youth, it was a youth-oriented Kwibuka conversation, one of them just looking at the initiatives that youth have been doing each memorial period. But key questions, what are some of your thoughts on the messages that we need to reiterate more than ever, especially upcoming memorial, as well as how can youth get more involved? Brian, I'll kick off with you.
I think it's a tough one. It's a tough one because we are seeing more cases, unfortunately, 27 years on. We are seeing more cases of genocide denial. For me, what breaks my heart is to see the younger generation born in this country who are 27, 22, 23, who have no sense whatsoever of 94, you know. And for them, you know, the commemoration week is just a slow week. Actually,
it's quite bothersome to most of these young people that you're talking about.
Young people, so... Yeah. And we've seen, of course, there's a bit more of social media engagement. I think the message was sent out, find them on the platforms, you know, where they are. But I think it has to be more than that. I think that history, our history, has to be made a core subject. Till Form 6. Minimum, 4, 6, and it is a core subject. Someone has to pass that subject. It is the only way, in my view, at least we can have a sense of history. I don't know about today, but most of us spent a lot of time studying, you know, European history. I don't know, for whatever reason. Why can't we make our history a core subject?
I like that.
Because I have seen even my own, you know, colleagues who have gone through university, and they still don't understand what happened. And you say, but wait, you mean you have no sense of history? So I said, oh. So I feel beyond the social media, there has to be a way of, I'm sorry to say this, but you have to force people to care and actually pay attention to history and get it right before it is too late, you know. So beyond, you know, the Twitter chats, the Instagram, make it a core subject and find ways of making sure that people actually study the history. And we know this
from have conversations around.
We know this from foreign countries. When you want to acquire citizenship, you know how long people go to study, you know, the history of these countries for them to acquire citizenship, you know. Now, let's start internally. Let's make it a core subject. Young people have to pass this course.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have a few minutes left. Charles, over to you.
Yeah, I think, first of all, just to echo what Bana said earlier on, it's very painful. It's very painful that 27 years on, we're still discovering remains of people and remains buried at church and sites. And you ask yourself, is it deliberate? Is it a surprise discovery? Most likely not. So it basically comes into to emphasize the point that we still have a very, very long way to go. That's number one. Number two, the politics that we are living in the region, and especially for Rwanda, I mean that affect Rwanda, dictate that every single opportunity that people who have any disagreement with Rwanda will have, they will ride on it. And therefore, this whole issue of genocide deniers and people who are perpetrating messages of a double genocide, it's, if you look at the politics behind it beyond the facts, that's sort of the politics override the facts. So to them, it does not matter whether they believe it or not. What matters for them is that it is a platform for which they will use to fight the existing regime and try to make their point.
And also,
yes,
very, very importantly, it serves as a major tool for distraction.
Exactly. A very huge tool, thank you,
Huge
Diana,
tool, yeah.
for distraction. And that therefore means that the fight should not only be against genocide and therefore teaching people about the genocide against the Tutsi and what made it happen and the repercussions and having it as part of the curriculum is not enough in itself. Yes, because the political divide that comes with it or that came from it is a lot bigger. And and I like to give examples of young men and women. Today you will come across somebody who's maybe 25, 28 years old, somewhere between 25 and 30. By the time the genocide was happening in 1994, they were hardly born, or they were 2 years old. So it is very easy to be quick to judge that what these guys do, their hands are clean, they were not yet born, and so on and so forth. Until when some of them, and very few of them, especially those who have if I was talking to somebody, and they were telling me that it is a small percentage who will harbor those thoughts and want to keep the genocide ideology agenda in their minds. But you can easily see it's because they have been trained by people who predominantly have political ambitions. So my point therefore is the fight against a better Rwanda, both in terms of fighting the ideology and tackling the deniers, it also has a very, very huge political angle to it, and that needs to be seriously harnessed. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Charles. Next week we'll be engaging youth, discussing some of these key issues under Kwibuka 27 that you've very eloquently put forward in terms of the concerns, in terms of key things that we really need to keep at the forefront in terms of really memorializing, the tragic events of 1994 and continuing, the documentation and the historical keeping of history, so to speak, for future generations. We've come to the end of the show. I'd just like to read a couple of tweets before we finish. We don't have time to read all of them, but I'll start with the ones that came in first. We have a tweet from Mani Saf, who states that, and I think, Brenna, this person was responding to you. Talk on Miss Rwanda, who says, why not Miss and Mr. Rwanda? Equal pay, scrutiny, and all. And then we have another tweet coming in, and this tweet is from Dennis Karamuzi, who says that consent isn't known to many boys or men, as nobody teaches them when or how this happens. Unfortunately, it gets too late to keep girls safe when men gain strength, both physically and financially. This is an issue. Sex education is key for both. Absolutely agree with Dennis Karamuzi. We also basically have, I think that's it for the tweets that we have time for right now. But I'd just like to thank Charles. Pleasure having you always on Burning Edition.
Yes.
Issues. Great to always see you disagreeing with Brenna from time to time. Brenna, always a pleasure.
Irrespective of the fact that I disagree with her, I wish her a happy Easter. And a happy Easter to you too.
Thank you, Charles. And likewise to you. It is a holy week. Brenna, always a pleasure having you, especially since we missed you while you were up country the last 2 weeks. To our viewers, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for participating in the conversation. But most importantly, because Burning Issues edition is made up of content that you decide for the resident panelists to speak on. So thank you, as always, for every last Wednesday of the month sharing ideas on what you'd like to see us discuss on the square. I'm wishing you a happy Easter, a happy Good Friday as well, which is on Friday. And I'm also I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our partners, Bourbon Coffee and Uzi Collection, always supporting Made in Rwanda. Thank you. Have a good night. See you again next week.